Welcome to Raising Special Needs Kids. Real conversations, real hope, and real stories for families walking the special needs journey. Our host is Monica Schmelter, sister to a brother with Down syndrome, and we're here to remind you, you're not alone.
Hi, I'm Monica Schmelter, and this is the Raising Special Needs podcast. And this podcast is all about serving families, special needs kids, siblings, cousins, bringing everyone together to talk about the challenges and the joy of being a special needs family. And my guest today is Allie Davis. Allie, thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Monica.
You know, this has been a dream in my heart for a really long time. My brother had Down syndrome, and so I know, the joys, the laughs, all of it, and challenges of special needs families.
Yes.
So I'm doing this in his honor because he made a tremendous impact in my life, changed the way that I looked at things, changed the way that I looked at people. And so I'm honored to be doing this in his memory. And I'd love to hear about your family, Allie.
Yeah, that is so beautiful. I love it so much. And yes, I am a wife and mother, first and foremost, and a Christian, and love Jesus with all my heart, have been grateful to know him all my life, really, and been raised in the church. And I have two precious daughters. Both came home through adoption, and one in particular has special needs.
And did you know that would be the case when you adopted, or?
No. So we did know about risk factors. So the adoption agency, told us different things that birth mother knew in her medical history. We really didn't have any information about birth father and his medical history, very, very limited. So we had some information, and we did know some things about the prenatal environment that were risk factors and things. But no, there was nothing apparently wrong with her, in the womb. So yeah, and we were new parents. She's our oldest. So we were figuring out a lot along the way as well.
Yeah, so you get this bundle of joy. And, as all parents, right, we're nervous, we're scared, we're excited. It's the adventure of a lifetime. We all have plans, dreams, prayers for our children. When did you start noticing that maybe she was a little unique or had some special needs?
So our health journey with her started very early when she was a baby. First of all, we were monitoring for some things right when she was born, and she had a very short NICU stay. Thankfully, everything then really was kind of cleared up. They said, take her home, she's good. But then at 6 weeks, she started refusing the bottle, and we found out she had a birth defect called laryngomalacia, which is a soft larynx. It's a birth defect where the larynx hasn't fully developed. And then the flap comes over her airways while she's trying to suck at the bottle. And so she had a difficulty breathing, and it doesn't always become apparent to the baby. They don't feel this drowning sensation until they're a little bit older. And so at 6 weeks, she started feeling it and refusing the bottle. So we had to learn special ways to hold her, to take the bottle, and started to see specialists, that kind of thing. So, but then fast forward, that resolved on its own besides some medication for reflux and things. But otherwise, she kind of outgrew that condition. And so then we knew she was a rigid baby toddler, but then didn't really have any names for diagnoses till she was 3 when we started and had sensory processing disorder introduced, and kind of started from there on our journey.
And for you and your husband, as you get diagnoses, and first of all, some people may not know it's hard to get a diagnosis. That sometimes it comes easy, but sometimes there has to be a lot of investigation. So you said you love Jesus with all of your heart. I imagine you and your husband were praying and just trying to figure this out, right?
Yes, definitely. Yes, I am so grateful. God has been so faithful to us through the years. He has led us, and he's put people in our paths all along the way, and he continues to do so, and it has been difficult, absolutely, but also he's been faithful. Actually, I met a occupational therapist at a girls' night that I never even went back to. One time went to this friend's girls' night, and this occupational therapist was there, and she and I started talking about something that had happened with my daughter the day before, and she said, I think you should go to play therapy maybe. And that led us on the start of it ended up, we did go to an occupational therapist, and she was the first to say sensory processing, and that led to some other diagnoses.
Yeah.
So, yeah, God's been very faithful.
Yeah. And I think that's part of my prayer for this podcast is, when you connect with people and you meet people, God gives us the things that we need. And what you're saying is she needed occupational therapy. You may not have known that about the sensory processing disorder, but my goodness, you got where you needed to be to get your daughter the help that she needed.
Yes.
And has it been easy in the medical system?
Absolutely not. So my daughter has seen, I think we're somewhere around 18 different kinds of doctors, and she's 12. That's not counting times we've had to change doctors within a certain field. I've kept a little list on my phone at times. And so I think if you counted the times we've changed doctors, she's seen 25 different, medical professionals or so. So no, it has not been easy. Just to get diagnosed with sleep apnea when she was 5 took about 4 or 5 different visits. I mean, not visits, different doctors, and multiple visits to some of those doctors along the way to try and figure out why she wouldn't sleep and couldn't stay asleep. So
well, that's
yes.
a struggle, I would think, in and of itself. Just the worry, the concern, the angst of my child won't sleep.
Yes.
And can you do something? Can somebody help me, please?
Oh, yes. You have no idea, honestly. Insomnia for a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, it was so exhausting. I mean, I remember she was much too big to be rocked to sleep, but I would sit in the chair and hold her tight, trying to give her some compression and rock and do anything we could to get her to sleep. And then only a few hours later, we'd be back up, and then we might sit by the bed for hours and hours and hours trying to get her back to sleep. It was exhausting. So
it had to be exhausting. Like that affects every area of your life. Like
Absolutely.
I always say, Allie, a good night's sleep is not overrated.
Oh,
so
yes.
she's struggling, but then also you and your husband are, because we all need sleep. You can't get a diagnosis. That had to be an extremely hard struggle.
Yes.
Was it one that you could share with other parents, or are other parents helpful, or do they try to compare, or?
Yes and no. Some are helpful, some are not. Absolutely. I think that anyone who doesn't have a child with special needs shouldn't try to compare themselves to the parent with special needs. And I'm saying if you have someone who has a child with diagnoses and you don't have a child with diagnoses, don't try. Like, all of us have struggles with our children. And even my other daughter has one diagnosis, but I wouldn't consider her special needs because it's dyslexia, it's high functioning. She's, typically developing in most ways. So to try and say, oh yeah, my child's difficult in that way, to someone where now my daughter has 3 diagnoses and some sub-conditions that go along with them, it's just, it's not a level playing field. It's not apples to oranges. But then there are absolutely parents that just listen or just say, I'm here for you, or how can I help? And that is what a parent of a child with special needs is someone that says, I'm in this journey with you. We love you. We support you. How can we help?
And I said that because I think sometimes in trying to relate to people, we want to compare. Like, I've been there. But for a kid that's just waking up, right, a few times a night, that's really different than somebody who can't sleep for days.
Right. And years.
Yes. And that going to all these different doctors, that's a completely different journey. And what you're saying is, like, don't compare. Don't try to fix us. Because I remember, like, with my brother and having Down syndrome, there would be people that would try to fix him or tell my parents what they needed to do. And I can remember, like, even at a young age, feeling so sad for my mom that, if she could have done something, we would have all done it.
Right.
There wasn't a fix. It was a journey of trusting God and being blessed on that journey, but just one that quick fix or what this mother did just wasn't going to work for a Down syndrome baby. And we loved him, of course, just as much as anybody loves their kid. So you're saying, like, maybe cook a meal, listen, love you, support you, but don't try to compare children.
Yeah. Can we give you free childcare for a night, let you get out of the house for a little bit, or come hold the other kid because I know you need to take care of your older daughter, or, keep the other child while you go to a doctor's appointment, whatever it is. Yes, that's the things that can be really, really helpful.
Yeah. And that's so much a part of the community of faith, right? And all of us being brothers and sisters in Christ and just pitching in, because a special needs family, I mean, there are special needs. It's not just, hey, I need to get out of the house for a date night, though that's nice. It's that you weren't sleeping, you're not doing all these things. And so for you, just being able to go out with your husband for a simple dinner would be such a treat.
Yes. And we're in a very different place now than when the girls were little, where, money was tighter and we didn't have as much help. And so back then that was huge for us, absolutely. So we've had to even migrate in how we learn and adjust, grow in how we care for ourselves and the help we pay for and different things to support ourselves, and to remember that this is a marathon, not a sprint. And that means that we have to have structures in place to help us for the long term. And that has meant for us, because we don't have a ton of family in the area, we don't have any grandparents here, that's meant budgeting for childcare most of the time. And then me working some outside of the house because it makes me come alive and do the things that I'm called to do, not just be a stay-at-home mom, because that's not as life-giving to me as it is to some people. So figuring out along the way how the whole family can thrive and not letting the whole life of the house center around the child with special needs, which is very, very difficult.
And it's very common amongst special needs family, very understandable. Like, I understand how and why it happens.
Yes.
I think for so many reasons, Allie, with my brother, he was born in 1972, so there weren't as many known things and as many resources then, but we all made him the center of our lives because he had special needs, and we loved him, and we wanted to protect him, and I was his advocate, and big sister, and that was all good. But we just didn't know what to do, and what you're saying is, like, you have the knowledge of, hey, we've got another daughter. You're married, you've got a husband, you've got a marriage to keep healthy and strong. So that has to be like a real, I don't want to say fight, just trying to balance it all out so that you can be a healthy, thriving family with a special needs kid.
Absolutely. And we didn't go into this, again, knowing that she would have special needs. So it has been learning along the way for sure. And we have done some things right and some things absolutely not right. And thankfully, we're still all together, and we're so grateful for that. And we're doing really well right now. There are still struggles, absolutely. But again, God's been faithful, and he's put people around us that have been that support system for us too. We're so, so grateful.
I'm so, so glad to hear that. I think that a support system makes all the difference. To know that you belong, to know that you're loved, to know that people have your back and that they understand that you have special needs. It's not just like a luxury, like it's a need for you to keep the family together, for you to be able to go out and do things. How about education?
Yes, that has been a definite struggle for us as well. I think it's a struggle for so many parents, whether you have children with special needs or not right now. The school systems are a struggle to navigate. However, for children with special needs, it is worlds harder. And so we have had her in private school, public school. Now she's homeschooled. We've done homeschool without a tutorial. Now we're doing homeschool with a tutorial. So we have kind of covered the gamut. And every year figured out what we need and what we need to do. And last year we started in public school and pulled, and we're homeschooling by September 15th. So, it's definitely a wild ride. And then advocating within the 504 and IEPs and all of that. I did have a few years of experience of that. And advocating within a private school, which you may not have all the same terms of IEP and 504, but you still have to have a plan and the support and the resources. And so, yes, it's been a definite journey.
And sometimes people don't think about it, but it's not, you don't realize what parents of special needs children are going through. They called it an IEP even when my brother was little. And I remember those meetings. And I remember what my parents felt like after those meetings and what class my brother could get into or what resource was available. And I remember they did this IQ test. And he missed by 1 point being able to go into a particular program that my parents really desired. And I remember that day so clearly because they got it in a letter.
Yeah.
So they get it and they're so disappointed. And then we opened up the next letter, and I was in college then. And I had made it to honors college, and I knew my mom wanted to celebrate that, but she's so sad for my brother. And so it's just, 1 point. That just doesn't even seem fair, does it?
Right.
But yet we all, like you talked about, we all make mistakes. But the one thing we did well was we really loved everybody. So we made it through. But like those are just some of the things that special needs families go through.
Absolutely. Yes. And you're never going through just one thing at a time. You're navigating school, but also like right now it's scoliosis for us. And I've kind of backburnered it because I'm like, we've done x-rays. We've figured out that she's really, really resistant to wearing a brace, but that's what the doctor's recommending. And we had to just getting x-rays was difficult because she does deal with anxiety and high levels of it, and medical anxiety. But then we've tried to figure out do we do the brace or do we just wait and see and pray and hope that this gets better? And we're kind of figuring. So we've got that and school, and she needs braces. And, back when it was sleep, it was 3 or 4 different things too. So it's always a lot you're juggling.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned, you're praying and trying to figure it out. Because what people don't understand is if the doctor's saying that your kid needs to wear a brace, you want them to do that. But if it causes your kid so much stress and so much whatever, any parent would be like, okay, what do we do? What do we do? And that's where faith and depending on God, helps us to see it through. What is a takeaway that you might want to leave for moms and dads, maybe sisters and brothers, cousins, that you really learned in this journey, and maybe you could help them so they don't have to learn it the hard way?
Yeah. So first of all, I want to say what a blessing my daughter is. She is beautiful and smart and creative and fun. And we are so delighted that she's part of our family. And having children didn't come naturally to us because we had an infertility journey. And so we're just grateful every day for her brave birth mother who entrusted her to us. And so first and foremost, we're grateful. Secondly, I'd say to other parents and the family members supporting them, this is a journey that God will keep you on faithfully as you take it step by step and day by day. One day I was in church and God spoke to me, this is like building Noah's Ark. You need to hammer each board, nail by nail, board by board, and eventually this boat, meaning her life, her journey, is going to float. But it's going to take a journey, and it takes every single day, just taking it a day at a time.
And I love that. And I've often thought about Noah and Mrs. Noah and how ridiculous that looked to build a boat when it hadn't rained.
Right.
But yet God asked him to do it. And on a day that was super important, right, that boat did float.
Yes.
And that was like God promising you that your daughter would flourish.
And I still need that hope because there's days it's still like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? Is she okay? So yes, we need that assurance for sure. It's a faith journey.
Yeah. And I think for a parent, because I'm a parent, I would do anything, and my son is grown, like that he wouldn't have to suffer, right? I would take whatever that was. And because that's our hearts as parents, is to protect and to love our children, and that's good. But what you're saying is you have thoughts, you have diagnoses, you have things that make you think, what is going to happen in the future?
Right. Yes, definitely. So, our daughter's high functioning. Some parents of children with special needs, it's all different. That's another thing to remember, is that you can't compare even one family with a child with special needs to another because there's just worlds and worlds of differences. And so our daughter being high functioning, we hope that she can have an independent life and a great career and a love of her life. And some parents know that their child will be dependent on them their entire life, or they'll need to find a group home or something. So it's so different. But yes, absolutely, we are still in the journey and still just trusting that God's going to take care of her and us day by day.
Well, he's been doing it.
Yes.
He's going to continue doing it. And I just love that picture that he gave you of Noah's boat, just confirmation from God. So thank you so much for joining and for talking with me today about this.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. And I am writing about my journey as a parent of a special needs child on my Substack, so people can find that. It's Allie Davis. My Substack is called The Heart's Overflow.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that people can follow you and take a look at what you're writing. I think it would help parents and cousins and siblings, because that's what I found in my family's journey, is that I needed other people's thoughts and to learn from them. Not everything people said worked,
Yes.
but it was just nice to have people to talk to. And if there was one lesson that I learned, is that comparison doesn't work. Because what works, it's just like with any kid. What works with one special needs kid might not work with another.
Right.
But that's true for children in general. One family
Absolutely.
disciplines this way, another family does that. And we have to remember to not be judgmental, but to understand most parents are doing the very best that we can. Right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we need to not pass judgment, but encourage and support and have compassion.
Because it can be a hard, isolating journey.
Yes.
And part of what this podcast is bringing special needs families together, the whole family.
I love that.
Moms, dads, siblings like me, the big sister. And one thing that I want to do today as we close out is just share a funny story about my brother. And then as we go along in podcast, to invite other special needs families to share funny stories so that we can have a lighthearted part of it. Yeah. So when I went off to college, I really missed my little brother. So it was back in the day, and I would write him letters, and I would send $1 or $2 because he loved Reese's peanut butter cups. And I would say, when you go to the store, get yourself.
Me too.
Yeah, I do too. Yes. And when it came time to come home for Christmas, I called on the phone, and he said, Monica, bring me a Reese's peanut butter cup. And I said, sure. Well, it was about a 3-hour drive, and we lived in Michigan. And we got about a 12-inch snow as I was driving home. And I was scared. I was like 18 years old, and the weather was bad, and I just wanted to get home. And I didn't remember the Reese's peanut butter cup.
Oh.
My brother opens the door. He goes, "Where's my Reese's peanut butter cup?" And I said, "I forgot." And he said, "Oh, you can't come in till you go get me a Reese's peanut butter cup."
Oh, no.
And I'll tell you what sister did. Big sister, I drove to the store very bravely. And I
so
got him his Reese's
sweet.
peanut butter cup, and it looked like $1 million to
So
him.
sweet.
And he gives me a
I
big
love it.
hug. And my mom's like, "You were at the door before?" I'm like, "Yes, he sent me away to get the Reese's peanut butter cup." So
I love that.
Yeah.
And also, let me just say that siblings of children with special needs are a special breed, because my other daughter is so brave and so resilient. Yeah.
the compassion.
Yes.
My brother's life absolutely changed my life. I don't think I would have come to faith in Christ without him. He was a very special blessing every day he was on earth,
Yes.
and we celebrate his life now that he's in heaven. God
Beautiful.
blessed our family with
Beautiful.
him. I always remember the Reese's peanut butter cup, and it makes me laugh. He didn't care about the snowstorm. He wanted his big sister to go get him a Reese's peanut butter cup.
I love that
Yeah.
so much.
Thank you again. And thank you again for all who have joined us today on the Raising Special Needs podcast. If you have a funny story about your special needs kid or family, please send it in on our Facebook page. And just let us know, because we want to share all of these stories and hear all the different parents' stories. So thank you for joining us today, and I will see you next time on Raising Special Needs Kids.
Thank you for listening to Raising Special Needs Kids, a safe place for honest stories, practical help, and a whole lot of encouragement. We are so glad we're on this journey together, and we will see you next time.